from Amerivet Securities, a service-disabled, veteran-owned broker-dealer in New York City, we bring you Compass Check, a podcast created by veterans for veterans. The military uses the compass to navigate air, land, and sea. Now, Compass Check is here to help you navigate your transition into the corporate workforce. Our goal is to reach military veterans and members of the veteran community, empower and connect them with a multitude of resources that will ultimately set them up for success after leaving the military. I'm your host, Army veteran James Fitzgerald. Let's get moving. Fiserv is a leading global technology provider serving the financial services industry, offering technology solutions needed to run operations, including products and services that enable financial institutions to process customer deposits and loan accounts. Fiserv provides commerce-enabling solutions and serves merchants of all sizes around the world. My guest today is Meg Hendricks, Vice President and Head of Military and Veteran Affairs. Here's our conversation. Welcome back to another episode of the Compass Check podcast, helping every single transitioning service member and their family figure out what's available to them as they transition out of the armed forces and into the corporate workforce. Today, I have a very special guest here with me today, Meg Hendricks from Fiserv. She's going to be here to talk about not only her journey transitioning out of the military and where she is currently now with Fiserv, but also what opportunities and resources are available to you as you transition out and want to become a part of an organization just like Fiserv. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it and start serving up some great information and resources about Fiserv. So Meg, absolute pleasure to have you here with me today.
I'm happy to be here.
So we will kick things immediately off so we can get into all the stuff that we want to cover today. We have so much on our plate, so let's start eating. I'd like for you, you were Vice President, Head of Military and Veteran Affairs for Fiserv. Can you just give us a brief understanding of what it is that you do for Fiserv and give us some insight into a typical day for you?
For sure. So we're going to talk about the Fiserv Salutes program overall a little bit later in the program, but everything within that purview is my purview. So and a lot of what it ends up being is project management, event planning, um, partnership management, those kind of things. Because I think, James, we were talking about, what does the day in the life look like? Well, frankly, it changes week to week because, our partnerships are one of the most important parts of the program. And so, but we partner with different community organizations, veteran service organizations, groups like that in order to help with employment, entrepreneurship, engagement. You'll hear those three words a couple times from me today. And so what that means is, like, for example, next week we're going to be in DC at the Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Employment Summit. Last week we had one of our executives, Tom Higgins, come with Colonel retired Jack Jacobs, who's also a Medal of Honor recipient, and they spoke to our internal groups of hiring managers and recruiters, both in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, and in Omaha, Nebraska, to really kind of reinforce our commitment to hiring from the military community. So last week we were doing a little bit of travel to do some internal events. Next week it'll be an external event. And then a lot of it is, like I said, project management, event planning, and relationship management. It's a lot of fun.
It seems like your day is full, so I'm going to thank you yet again for taking some time to join me today. But it's also another layer of pleasure for me to speak with you because we're both Army veterans. As soon as I learned that piece of information about your background, I was like, I have to have Meg on. I have to have her on. I need to hear this journey out of my premier branch of the military, the Army. How did you make it to where you are now? So I know you were in the officer corps. Can you give us a little bit of the background from your time in the military and how it kind of got you from the military to Fiserv?
Okay. Yeah, so my journey really started with filling out an ROTC application that my dad gave me, and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, truthfully. So, when I went to that first semester of college, I came back and I was like, hey, mom and dad, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. But I decided to go to a very expensive college, and they were like, well, we would need to come up with some other alternatives. And so I ended up, sticking it out, commissioning as a lieutenant, and I became part of the Adjutant General Corps. So I was the Battalion S1, or for those who are not familiar with the Army, it's a human resources officer. And so I was heading up a staff section, and did that pretty much the whole time that I was there. Spent a year in Qatar, a little bit of time in Kuwait. But I really chose Adjutant General Human Resources because I knew, well, I assumed that it would be translatable to the civilian workforce. And we can talk a little bit about my transition a little bit later. But I would say that, I learned a lot. It helped me grow up as a professional. And some of the fun things that have happened is, whenever I remember where I was at a university once and I ran a meeting and they were like, wait a second, we can totally tell that you were in the military because you just ran this meeting and it's done. And I was like, yes, we're going to do the chit chat afterwards. So we got to get the business done first. So yeah, that was my time in the Army. I did a little over 4 years and then transitioned out, did a little bit of reserve time. I always joke I had asthma, which I was able to kind of handle whenever I was on active duty, but then whenever I got in the reserves, I had to be medically boarded out. But I think anyone who served would say that there are definitely ups and downs, but most of us, learn a lot and grow. And then the coolest thing is whenever you meet other people like you, James, who were in the Army or even the Navy or Coast Guard, Air Force, Marines, I guess, Space Force, that we all just kind of connect. And so that is just like the coolest thing also about getting to do my job is getting to be part of that community, where we just kind of have that connection straight out the bat.
It seems everything that you're doing at Fiserv is a continuation of your service. Like you're still providing additional opportunities to veterans, no different than you were providing those opportunities, order and structure while you were active duty and in the reserves to service members in that capacity. So yeah, like it seems like it's hand me glove for everything that you're doing right now at Fiserv. So I do want to kind of take a step out and look at Fiserv as an organization. During my research, I was able to look up some of the information that's available on your website, Fiserv.com. And one of the things that popped out to me very, very quickly, because I'm very stupid. And it's one of those things like I started getting confused when I saw fintech on the website. And my thought is, what is that? Is there any way you can give us a very down and dirty street level definition of fintech?
I will do my best. And you know what? I bet there's someone who's listening going, wait a second. I thought he said Pfizer. And so every time I speak or I'm in front of folks, I always like to clarify, nope, we're not the pharmaceutical company. We are Fiserv, which stands for financial services. And yeah, fintech is everything related to, as it says, financial technology. So for Fiserv, what that means is, if you make a payment today, whether you do it in person, contactless, online, it's pretty likely that you've touched our products at some point. So, because we do everything from printing credit cards to we have a point of sale system, which is the Clover, which is, competitor of like Square or Toast, those kind of things. We also work with like large enterprises to be their platforms for apps and payment processing. We work a lot on the contactless, things like that. So, you know, it's really just everything within that realm is is all the financial technology, and pretty much anything that you could think of Fiserv related to that, Fiserv probably has in our portfolio.
I'll, there was a lot of information on the website, but two pieces of information that stuck out to me, and it goes hand in hand with what you just explained about financial technology. Um, Fiserv has over 6 million merchant locations across the globe. But even more than that, there's 12,000 financial transactions that are overseen by Fiserv per second. That is astounding. But it also shows in so many different ways the reach of your organization. So you're everywhere we want to be. And exactly to your point, if you've used a lot of these point of sale locations, you've probably touched the device and you've been a part of Fiserv without even knowing it.
But I think something that's also important to think about, because we are going to be talking about military employment and transitioning and things like that, is that a lot of people, when they hear Fiserv and financial services, fintech, they assume that you need to have a background in finance in order to work at Fiserv or technology or things like that. But the truth is, I mean, we have over 40,000 employees globally, so we're a big enterprise. We have jobs in a lot of different areas. So definitely don't, if you're looking at Fiserv, don't count yourself out immediately. Make sure you take a look at the different jobs that are available and see if it might be a fit, because we have a lot of different types of jobs.
I'm going to show a few of my cards, but I was going to bring up this piece later on in our conversation. But it seems very apropos to enter here, very much to your point about there's a lot of opportunities inside of the organization. Just a few of the departments that I found that veterans can find new career pathways with: finance, operations, sales, marketing, and information technology. So there's a wealth of pathways for any veteran, any military service member to navigate to figure out, hey, where's my next home post military? And I think both of us are great examples of the way that you can take your military service and utilize it in an enhanced way to get you to those new career opportunities outside of the military, because they are wanting us. It's just us making the connection. Part of that connection today is us having this conversation. So let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes of what it is that we want to discuss, which is Fiserv salutes. Just looking at the information that was available online, I'm going to allow you to go in depth into the three different pillars, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to touch on the career opportunities, the educational resources, also some of the entrepreneurship opportunities that are available.
Yeah. So earlier I said we have the three pillars, and James listed them there too. So when we're talking about employment, that's what you would think it would be. That's everything, related to recruitment, sourcing. But we see our employment efforts as being more holistic. So they really kind of, I guess, bleed into our engagement efforts as well. So, and what I mean by that is like, we have a really great military leave policy. I mean, even one ombudsman told me it might be too good. If you're in the National Guard or Reserves, you can get up to 2 years, 100% pay for active duty each year. It's up to 19 days. It's dependent on your time at the company. So that's why I say up to, and I want to be clear on that. But and then from the 2 to 5 years, it's a differential. So, I mean, it's a very expansive leave policy. And so we see that as part of employment and engagement, keeping people here, keeping them whole whenever they're out serving their country, that kind of thing. But other things related to employment, we partner with Hiring Our Heroes, 50 Strong, Student Veterans of America. It was like America's Warrior Partnership. I'm like, here, let me make sure. Step It Up America. I was like, I got a whole group. I know I'm going to forget someone and someone's going to tell me something, but sorry, guys. But we have a lot of different, partners. And I think one piece of advice that I would definitely interject here when it comes to employment or entrepreneurship, you need to get on those lists, because when companies like Fiserv are looking looking for people to hire or businesses that maybe we want to give grants to or we want to partner in some other way, we go to those partners, that we are already engaged with, and we ask them for lists or we ask them for their recommendations. So I mean, we do other types of like sourcing and recruiting as well, but we really do rely a lot on those partners. So that'd be, my 2 cents of advice is get on all the lists. Make sure you're on whatever list you can get on. But the other pieces of engagement, the engagement pillar, are really focused on our Military Leadership Council, which is our employee resource group. We have chapters in several different locations. I think we're at 12 right now, 12 different locations. We do, national virtual programming for everyone. And then there's a lot of local events that are happening, especially, Memorial Day is coming up. So a lot of the different sites are, putting up boards or maybe having an observance and doing different things like that. Um, we also partner with like Operation Gratitude and do Operation Honor Card each year, where we write letters to those who are serving actively now, those who are in the Guard or Reserves, those who are on the front lines, you know, medical. We kind of opened it up to those who are in the healthcare profession a little bit too during COVID. So that's been, I think this will be either our ninth or 10th year doing that. So um, it's really great. And then the third pillar is entrepreneurship. So since we are fintech and we process payments, we provide those types of solutions from, we always say from Wall Street to Main Street is kind of the way we talk about it. So, enterprise businesses down to mom and pop shops, even, if you don't have a physical location, but you still need to accept payments, nonprofit organizations across the board. So, we have a lot of partnerships and programs related to entrepreneurship as well. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit more. But some of the partners that we work with are the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, Dog Tag Inc., Bunker Labs, Rosie's Network, the Small Business Administration, Navoba, all those types of groups.
I think I saw something online as well that was speaking about the Coalition for Veteran Owned Businesses.
Yes, yeah. We are a founding member, thank you, James, of the Coalition for Veteran Owned Business. And that is a list. If you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, please do go sign up for that newsletter, because anytime that so one of the big programs that Fiserv did, which is not military specific, but I think it's also important for you all to know about, is our Back to Business program. So it started in 2020, and it provided um, a variety of different things, but one of the things that it did was provide grants to help folks get back to business, right? So, um, anytime that we are looking to give out grants in a specific location or for a specific event or things like that, we always go to our partners, especially like IVMF, Bunker Labs, Dog Tag, those groups, to ask them for lists, and the Small Business Administration. So, like for example, last December, in partnership with IVMF, we gave out $10,000 grants in Atlanta, and it was really cool because they got surprised, right? So they were invited to come. They knew that there was money on the table, but the surprise was that everyone that went got it. So it was really cool.
What I'd like to do is take a step back and broaden the conversation just a little bit to get an idea of the career opportunities that are available to these veterans, but trying to get an understanding. Is there an example that you can give me of the stereotypical veteran that would be eligible for your programs? Do they come from a particular branch? Do they have a particular education or experience level in the military? Can you give me an idea of that?
So I would say no, not exactly, but because we have so many different types of roles available, it just really depends on which one. I mean, we work with Hiring Our Heroes to have fellows. We work with Step It Up America to do a special program where veterans come and they are basically a contractor, but like getting trained and getting certifications, different things like that. And then after they finish the program. I think it's like a year long, but if they finish the program, then they most likely will get converted to full time after that program is completed, and we've had really high conversion rates for that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's over 90% on the conversion rate and like completion of the program. So, but I think what I would suggest a little bit to take it a little bit different is that in order to get kind of some of the benefits of our Fiserv Salutes program, what you need to do, and I know, James, you're probably going to ask me a little bit later this, but what you need to do is, go online, look at what you match with, like what makes sense for your background. You need to match pretty well or be able to explain how, your military experience translates to this thing that is on the job description. Be ready to speak to that. And what I would say then go ahead and apply, and then you would email military recruitment at fiserv.com. So military recruitment at fiserv.com or fiserv.salutes at fiserv.com, either one of those. Um, Say, I am a veteran or military spouse. And just so y'all know, we count anyone as a military spouse if they are or ever have been, because we see them as gaining those knowledge, expertise, skills from being the military spouse. So just kind of keep that in mind whenever you're applying. So you go ahead and email and you say, this is the job that I applied to. Attached is my resume. I am a veteran. And if you want to be even more stellar, I would say, I noticed on the job description that it has this, and I do not have this in my background. However, this is why I think that this piece of my background matches this. And then what will happen is that'll go to our talent acquisition team, because we have a specific talent acquisition team that is focused on military hiring. And they will make the connection. The nice part is, if you do that, then who's ever worked in recruiting would know that sometimes there are job postings up, the role has already been filled, but the job posting just isn't down, or something else has happened. But by getting that connection and sending that specifically, what will happen is then our recruiters from that team, our talent acquisition professionals, will give a call and say either, hey, this position's still available, or it's not, or we think maybe this other position might be a better fit for based on what you said. And they'll do a little bit of what we call a little bit more of the white glove treatment in the recruiting world. So that is my best advice. And I mean, I give it a lot and I don't see it coming through a lot. So I would say again, go apply and then email military recruitment at fiserv.com or fiserv.salutes at fiserv.com. Take advantage of that opportunity.
And I want to go back to something you had mentioned earlier about some of the nonprofit organizations that you partner with, the Hiring Our Heroes. Getting on those lists will help you when it comes time to explain why you are qualified, why you are experienced enough for the position, even though the job requirements don't really match on paper, but deep down inside, hey, I can do this. I just need to be able to articulate why I am a good fit for this. So those additional partner organizations that you had mentioned earlier, they can help a lot of us veterans with something that we're not good at, which is talking about ourselves, especially in a professional sense. I was in the infantry. I could tell you all the fun stuff that I did while we were training or while we were deployed. But when it comes to talking about some of the accolades and achievements and experiences and how it can benefit a corporation that I'm looking to be employed by, like I'm speechless sometimes. It's like the cat got my tongue. But it was a learned skill that I had to attain once I got out in order to have those interpersonal relationships that are required to develop yourself professionally, but also it helps personally. So I think this is an all-encompassing conversation that we're having, not just about the professional, but also about the person. So exactly what you just expressed, hands down, is what we all need to soak in. It's like, definitely look at all the career opportunities, but don't shy away from putting yourself out there and saying, I can do this, and let me tell you why. And I love that Fiserv has those kind of opportunities, but also the latitude inside of their recruitment process to be able to take a step back and say, let me give this candidate an extra glance. Let me look a little bit deeper and see how big the iceberg is. So that's great.
Yeah, and I would just say one other thing, like kind of a more of a don't, and advice would be, don't like email and say, "Here's my resume. Where do you think I would fit?" That is not like a good look. Um, what so in order to make a good impression, especially over email in that type of format, you need to have shown that you've done some of the work. So you need to have gone on, even you could it would be better to reach out and say, I was looking at these three positions based on my resume. Which do you think would make the most sense for me to at least apply to first? I'd be more willing to have that conversation than just the, hey, where do you think I would fit in your in your organization of thousands and thousands of people? So just do some of the work first. That's the do and the don't there.
I agree. Give me some options, give me something to work with. Help me help you is what runs through my mind a lot of the time. It's like, give me more information so I can be more effective and efficient for you. So I definitely resonate with that. Um, there were some other things that I, wanted to present to you. You can go as far in detail as you would like, but I definitely would like to get a general idea of some of these additional events that are going on each year. The Vet Edge Conference.
Yeah, so that is for entrepreneurs who are more at like the growth and scaling stages. So that happens in Dallas usually each year, excuse me, in March. And you apply and then you potentially get to go. It's a really great conference. So if you are a veteran entrepreneur or military spouse, but it's mostly focused on veterans, I think, but you can apply to go as a military spouse as well. You get to go and hear from different subject matter experts. And then the conference is capped off by the Vet 100 dinner and awards presentation, which is the Vet 100 is based off of the Inc. 5000 list, and so it's the, how do we say it? It's like the top fastest growing veteran owned businesses, the top 100 fastest growing veteran owned businesses. So
I mean, AmeriVet Securities is a service disabled veteran owned business ourselves. So our heart goes out to this community as we grow and step into the business world to take advantage of these opportunities, but also join in the success that we've all been able to develop since leaving the military. So whether that's through some of the career opportunities that you had spoke about earlier, or taking the entrepreneurship route. I think the military community has a certain advantage from our experiences to really take these challenges on head on and be able to really excel and take them to new heights and new levels. And I enjoy that you have an event set aside to showcase those successful efforts in the entrepreneurial side, but also give an extra hand up and hand out to those that are growing and developing their businesses. Um, like for me, like I'm a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, so it's just like, I don't know if that gives you precedent for the Vet Edge conference, but at the same time, I think it'd be an added bonus for any Dallas Cowboy fans that are able to take part in this magnificent event. Um, no, go ahead, please, please.
I was gonna say, just some other upcoming entrepreneurship events to be aware of. So Vet Edge conference has been going on since I think 2018. It was the first year, and then 2022, Fiserv has partnered with IVMF to do the military entrepreneurship forums, and we did one in Jacksonville, Florida this year. But we have one coming up in in the DC DMV area in June. So, and then there'll be one in the New Jersey area in October. So, you know, make sure that you're on that CVOB newsletter. That's where you're going to get that information about where they are. The idea, so a lot of these programs are kind of more nationally focused, and the idea of these specific military entrepreneurship forums is to be more honed in on the local area. So we don't, generally the idea is to kind of invite folks that are, in that local area to come be a part of the conversation, because we want to make those connections there. It's crazy. We'll be in those rooms and people are doing a lot of the similar things or working with similar groups, and they don't all know each other, even though they're in the same area. So, that's some of the work that we're trying to do. But also with entrepreneurship, I've been in a lot of rooms. We were at the Student Veterans of America conference and we did an entrepreneurship panel, and just hardly anyone in the room had really heard of the SBA's like Boots to Business programs or any of the IVMF programs, the dog tag, bunker labs, all those different programs that are available, and a lot of them are minimal to no cost. And so, I mean, I would just take advantage of those if you are an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur. Some of the programs that they have will help you determine if you really do want to be an entrepreneur, and I think that's just as valuable as anything else, is to have an answer. Oh, maybe that's not something I want to do, because it's not easy.
I think one of the main things that this podcast is trying to take aim at is the vast majority of resources that are utilized in the veteran community are referred word of mouth. So these one-on-one conversations to demystify these industries, to demystify these organizations, to demystify the people that work inside of these businesses that make them function, to demystify the pathways that we can walk post-military. That's one of the main purposes of this podcast, is to break down those obstacles to get the information directly at the heart of the community that can utilize them the most. All those resources that you just listed off that taken advantage of. It's like we're having more conversations to help military veterans and their families understand that we want you and we're going to fight and claw and get this information too if it kills us. But we also want you to take advantage of it. Take advantage of it, get your feet wet, figure out if this is for you, challenge yourself in certain aspects. Because for me, I'm enjoying hosting this podcast because I'm learning so much. Like, just a fun fact, when you brought up what Fiserv is a combination of financial services, it's like, wow, in all my research, I didn't find that. But there's so much more that I learn each and every single time I sit down to do these interviews. And I know I've gotten some great feedback from that are also listeners, that industries that they thought were closed off to them. So this kind of conversation is, hopefully going to help at least one veteran, one family figure out their pathway to being successful.
I think I love that you brought up industry, because I feel like people, whenever I transitioned out over 10 years ago now, so things are a little bit different, but people would bring up to me a lot, like, what industry do you want to go in? And I don't know that that's the right question, because frankly, the first job that I got out of the military was for a specialty chemical company, which was manufacturing, which I would never have said, yes, I would like to do manufacturing. Like, but a company similar to Fiserv, a big company where I ended up being a training and organizational development specialist. So like, there are different positions within these companies. So to say, I want to be in a specific industry, unless, you have a very specialized background with, certifications that put you into a specific industry. If you're working in more like, project management or HR or a variety of different areas, you could work in and I wouldn't limit yourself to that personally.
And I think that the advantages that come from military service also have a downside. They have some of those negatives. And I think part of those negatives include a narrow focus in what we feel that we're able to achieve, we're able to do post military. And I'm not going to say it's always the case, but sometimes it's um, the culture and the environment that we're around. Other people are telling us you should stay in the military. There aren't those opportunities out there for you. Oh, what are you going to do when you get out and you can't, find a job? There's so much fear that's put into us, and I don't think enough conversation has been had around good, positive company culture. Sometimes, we don't have the scrutiny that we need to have in the military over the environment that's being cultivated. We need an environment of positivity, but it's more mission focused in the military. Outside of that, company culture is a huge thing that I want to reinforce for every veteran to ask about when they interview for a company. It's not just a job. This is going to be a new environment and culture that you're going to be a part of. So I want to pose it to you. What are some of the things that you identify with as being good company culture, something that you resonate with, regardless of where you're working at professionally? But then if you can go into a little bit of what the company culture is like at Fiserv.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, for company culture, you need to have a good company culture. You need to feel comfortable bringing your whole self to work. I think that's like one of the main tenets of what I believe a good company culture would be. I mean, because so we talk a lot about culture, and culture is important, but ultimately you are there to do a job, and the company is there to make money too, right? So you got to kind of keep that in mind. But I think there's some interesting things when you think about culture, because, like for Fiserv, we have many different. There are missions and values that we work and live by within the Fiserv team. But so my advice would be, like, if you are going to work at a company that has multiple locations, ask a little bit more specifically about what goes on at like that location where you're going to be working at. But because like for us, a lot of the things that we try to focus on, so Fiserv Salutes actually falls under our corporate social responsibility business unit. We have a business unit that is CSR, and so we fall under there, which makes a lot of sense. If for the falls under different places and different companies, and we've shifted throughout the years as well, but we're under the CSR umbrella, which is great. And so a lot of what we work towards is having a really robust employee resource group culture and focus. So especially at like our bigger locations, there are events that are happening. February is for our Black Leadership Council, March is for our Women's Impact Network. Right now we have AAPI month going on, as well as military. Throughout the year, we kind of, and I know everyone's like, oh, we don't want to leave it only to 1 month, but then you got to manage all that. So we still do we do things throughout the year, but generally each ERG gets kind of 1 month that's really, really focused on them. And then they can do a couple things throughout the year outside of that. But I think the important piece of that is, um, you know, that when you were talking about like the culture of the military, we all talk about this, and actually Colonel Jack Jacobs was talking about this last week. When you're in the military, you have a group of people that, like, for better or worse, you're there and you have to figure out, you have to make it work, and you make connections. Some of them are stronger than others, some of them last longer than others. I would say most anyone that I have known in the military, even if we don't speak for years, if we have an opportunity to see each other and catch up, it's kind of like no time has passed, even though we're catching up on a lot of things, maybe kids, deaths, like different, all kinds of things like that. So, um, that is often what you miss, right? And like, so no matter what company you're going to, that is going to be, it's just going to be something you miss when you leave the military. So that's where I would say you should definitely seek out, if a company has, and like we have employee resource groups, because then you can connect with the people that have an affiliation like you, then you have some connection with them. And that's where, you know there's going to be a broader culture, but then you have to do what makes work fun and engaging for you while still getting your job done, but like making those connections. I mean, people are more likely to stay at a job where they have friends, and one of the easiest ways to do that is to join the groups that are available within your company.
Wow. Thank you for that. Like, it gave great insight, not only to, some of the experiences you've had previously and how that translates into how you view company culture now, but hopefully the listening audience has a good insight into some of the values and Fiserv is looking to employ inside of this company culture that they're having across the globe. So thank you for providing me that. I'm already seeing the hook timer. Like I've been holding on to you for, maybe just a bit too long, but I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about any kind of upcoming events, if there are announcements that are on the horizon, or if there are just some fun facts that you'd like to provide to our audience today. I want to give you the floor.
Okay. I talked about the upcoming military entrepreneurship forums, so get on the CVOB newsletter so that you'll see those as soon as they come out. DC will be June, New Jersey will be October. Again, please apply. Now, what I will say, I didn't really get into this too much, but we do have an in office culture. So when you're going to apply, there are some roles that are going to be work from road or remote, but generally you will need to be going into an office. And where we are hiring the most right now is in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, and Omaha, Nebraska, although you will see other positions available. So please just, if you do apply, go ahead and send the emails, like I said, and do that kind of thing. I'm all happy to connect with you all on LinkedIn. It's Meg Hendricks, and it's ICKS, like the gin, not like Jimmy. And also, if you see in parentheses, my last name was Beck, which I always, whenever we were at a shooting range, Beck on deck was always fun. So, but that's how you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect. I also tell people, I am busy and I may not be able to schedule it, next week. But if you reach out to me and have a specific ask or specific advice that you would like, just would prefer if it's like something specific, like, hey, maybe I need help with my career or your insight on this industry, or maybe you know someone here. Can you talk to them, or different things like that. So definitely do that. Let's see. I think I'll maybe do, you know, um, one last, like, because I think we were going to have like one last thing that uh, we would share. So, about my transition. So, when I transitioned out, I always tell people I would not do what I did, but we were moving to a new location and I didn't really have a network. And so I did apply online and I kind of lucked out that I got a job through applying online. But ever since then, I've taken advantage of companies having like military hiring programs, used my network, that kind of thing. So, and I say this a lot, and the introverts who are listening are not going to like this, but you do have to network because who you know matters. How that's, yes, you can get jobs applying online, but it's shooting fish in a barrel. So like you need to, like, if you want to have the job that's meaningful to you, that you're doing, what you want to do, have some control over that, maybe have some control over negotiations and different salaries and different things like that. You need to be making those connections, and don't be afraid to like take, I don't want to say take advantage of your connections, but do it professionally. But I mean, ask the questions, see how it can help you. Also be willing to help other people. But um, you know, I think you were talking about veterans having a hard time boasting and bragging. We also have a hard time asking for help. So, reach out and ask for help.
I'm definitely going to do that. And I advise, or an old Army phrase, I behoove every single person in the listening and viewing audience to take advantage of these opportunities when you're presented with them. You have one life to live, and you've already committed part of that to serving the United States of America. You've put your life on the line. So now that you're back and you're figuring out the next chapter of your life story, please, like, do your due diligence, like do yourself that service, and take advantage of these opportunities. You can make sure that you're continuing to live life to the fullest, especially in your professional world. So I appreciate you presenting the opportunity to connect with others on LinkedIn. I definitely would recommend those that are listening to the sound of my voice. If you're not utilizing LinkedIn as a resource, as a tool, you are wrong. You are very, very wrong. So if anything else, just know that you have your starting friend with Meg on LinkedIn. So please, Meg Hendricks, like the gin. It's like, I love that because I do like Hendricks gin. But yeah, make sure to seek us out. Make sure to ask those questions. And to your point, Meg, make sure to ask for help. So with that, I'm going to close us out today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us today to talk about all of the opportunities that are available inside of Fiserv, but also to catch up with another Army veteran that's out there, like overcoming obstacles, breaking down barriers, and presenting new opportunities to those that come behind. Everything that you've been doing today and all the fabulous information that you've provided during today's conversation.
I've loved being on, and I'm glad that I have a new friend in you too, James. So I expanded my network today as well.
Absolutely. So with that, I think everyone has been served with more than enough information to take action on. So until the next time, I've been your host, James Fitzgerald. I'm an Army veteran out here helping transition members and their families to find those opportunities, leave the armed forces and enter the corporate workforce. Until next time, I'll see you later. Thank you for listening to Compass Check with AmeriVet Securities. I've been your host, James Fitzgerald. See you next time.